Emily Harrow vanished without a sound, and the only person who might have seen what happened, Matthew Keller, with a search from his window with unnerving Hailton was the kind of place that seemed untouched by Tom. Nestled in a green pocket of Vermont, its charm lay in its simplicity. Rows of white fenced houses lined the quiet streets, and the only sounds most mornings were bird song and the low hum of passing cars. Life here moved at its own pace. People didn't rush. There was no need. It was a place where neighbors knew your dog's name, where the local grocery store still offered credit to and where children rode their bikes home before the sun dipped behind the hills. Crime in Helton was so rare that even a stolen bicycle made the front page of the weekly town paper. That's why, on an otherwise uneventful Thursday in October, the disappearance of Emily Harrow felt like a crack in the town's perfect surface. Emily was 29, a second-grade teacher who had grown up just a few towns over. She had moved to Helton 2 years earlier, looking for a fresh start after a difficult breakup. People liked her instantly. She was warm, reliable, and had a soft spot for rescue animals. Her students adored her. So when she didn't show up for work that Thursday morning, alarm bells went off quickly. Her coworkers tried calling. No answer. After a few hours, the school contacted the police. Officers went to her house, a small rental with white shutters and flower boxes. Her car was in the driveway. Nothing looked disturbed. The door was locked. When they managed to enter the house, everything was in place: keys on the hook, phone on the charger, purse on the kitchen counter. It looked like she had just stepped out for a moment and never returned. But there was no note, no sign of forced entry, and no sign of a struggle. The community sprang into action. Flyers with Emily's photos were posted on telephone poles and shop windows. Volunteers searched the nearby woods and hiking trails. Drones scanned the hills. The town's Facebook group flooded with theories and updates. The local diner turned into a makeshift headquarters with people offering food, flashlights, and support to searchers. But days passed with no sign of Emily. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. What struck many was how completely ordinary the circumstances had seemed. It wasn't late at night. There was no indication of danger. Her life had appeared stable and happy. The uncertainty of it all gnawed at people. Parents began walking their kids to school. Women avoided jogging alone. Hyalton, once a symbol of safety and trust, began to feel unfamiliar. Every shadow seemed darker, every passerby more suspicious. The police conducted interviews, starting with those closest to her. Friends, co-workers, neighbors. They canvassed the area and reviewed security footage from surrounding roads and shops, but the trail remained cold. One by one, the potential leads fizzled out. The case grew more unsettling by the day. What no one realized then, what not even the police suspected, was that the answers they were so desperately searching for were right in front of them. The truth wasn't buried in the forest or down some dark trail. It was quietly watching from across the street. Matthew Keller had always blended in. That was his talent, slipping into places unnoticed, leaving no ripples. In Helton, he was just another quiet neighbor with a nondescript job and a friendly wave. He had moved into the house across from Emily Harrow about 3 years before her disappearance. The home was modest and clean, with neatly trimmed hedges and closed curtains. He rarely spoke to anyone beyond the occasional nod or pleasantry. To most, he was just the guy across the street. He said he worked from home as a technical writer, though no one could recall ever asking exactly what that meant. A few neighbors noted how infrequently he left the house. His car, an older model sedan, rarely moved. Groceries were delivered. Packages arrived, but no one ever saw what was inside. Still, in a town like Helton, privacy wasn't suspicious. Was just how some people preferred to live. When Emily went missing, the police began canvassing the neighborhood. Matthew's name came up, but only briefly. Officers knocked on his door, he answered promptly, dressed in jeans and a sweater, appearing calm and cooperative. He told them he hadn't seen Emily recently, maybe a few days prior, when she was outside watering her plants. He didn't know her well, but he said she seemed nice. He expressed concern, asked if there was anything he could do to help, and wished him luck in the investigation. To the officers, he didn't raise any red flags. He had no criminal record, no history of violence, and no connection to Emily beyond geography. His property looked normal. The inside of his house, at least what they could see, was tidy and ordinary. A couch, a bookshelf, a TV. Nothing to suggest anything unusual. They made a note of the interview and moved on. But Detective Ian Rowe, a seasoned officer with a knack for reading people, found something off. It wasn't anything obvious, just a feeling that Matthew's answers came to Isley too smoothly. Most people fumbled when faced with unexpected questions, especially under the stress of a missing person case. But Matthew seemed rehearsed, as though he'd practiced the role of concerned neighbor. There was also one detail that didn't match up. Matthew mentioned seeing Emily outside earlier in the week, but her phone records and neighborhood security footage showed she hadn't been outside at all during that time. It was a small inconsistency, but in an investigation where everything mattered, it stood out. Rowe made a note of it, but without concrete evidence, there was little he could do. The department had no reason to push further. Dozens of people had already been interviewed, and Matthew Keller didn't seem more suspicious than anyone else, so the investigation continued to drift, and the focus shifted away from the quiet man across the street. As weeks turned into months, the case began to cool. People started returning to their routines, and Hilton slowly lulled itself back into a false sense of safety. All the while, Matthew remained right where he was, watching, waiting, hiding something no one was yet ready to see.